Hi there, and welcome to Hyundai Power Products. My name is Adrian, and today we're going to look at the HYM530SPER electric start roller mower. So I've laid the contents of the packaging out on the table so you can see exactly what you're going to get. First of all, we have the main body of the lawnmower itself with its upper handle connected by a lot of control cables. Now take great care when lifting the machine out of the box not to damage these cables. It's probably better that you get some assistance when lifting the mower out of the box. So moving on, we have the grass bag, and this is a 70-litre grass bag with this machine. We have the bottle holder. We'll go into the fitting of that a little later. We have the lower handle here. We have a packet of assorted nuts and bolts that you're going to need for assembly. We have the battery charger. We shall go into that shortly. And we have the user manual. Now I recommend that you read the user manual thoroughly before use. We're going to start by fitting the lower handle. If I go into the little packet, I'm going to need two of these, the longer bolts with the black nuts. In the bottom of the bag here, I've got two of these short bolts with standard nuts on them. That's two of those. So these are the parts I'm going to need to fit the lower handle. So you will notice on the lower handle that it has this pigtail here. This needs to go on the right hand side of the mower from the operating position, on the same side as the pull starter. So we'll be looking at putting it on this way round. So if I take one of the shorter bolts and pass it through this square hole, the third hole up, and then I need to pass it through the highest hole in the little black bracket here. So there we are. Now I'll just fasten the nut on loosely on the inside. And I'll do exactly the same on the other side. So yeah, being very careful not to trap any of the cables. Exactly the same thing on this side of the mower. And I'll just tighten that loosely by hand for the time being. So taking one of the longer bolts with the black nut and washer, I have two options. I can put the bolt through from the outside to the inside in this position. That would be for the taller operator. Or in this position would be for the shorter operators such as myself. Okay, so if I just lift the handle up into position, being careful again not to trap any of the cables, and I can pass the bolt through in this position, fit a washer on the inside, and fit the black knob on the inside. And again, passing the bolt from the outside of the mower towards the inside, exactly the same on this side of the mower. And tighten up the nut. Now we need to use a 13mm spanner to tighten up the upper bolt. So I do have a 13mm spanner here, but an adjustable spanner or a socket would do just as well. So I'm going to tighten this up until the grey tube is pulled hard against the bracket, and you will feel a resistance when it gets there, and that's enough. So exactly the same on the other side, and tighten the bolt on the other side. So moving on to fitting the upper handle to the lower handle, I'm going to take the upper handle, use one of the two remaining bolts with the black knobs on, and just slide the handle over the bolt there, being careful not to trap the cables. I'll slide the bolt through this side, exactly the same method, from the inside to the out this time. On with the washer, on with the black nut. I'll just lower it down into position, taking care with the cables. Just tighten this one up. And again, on this side, on with the washer. Oop. And on with the nut. So a little bit of cable tidying now. You'll see these plastic clips. I can simply pop it off the tube there, get these two cables and clip them to the lower handle. Okay, that's that one. And exactly the same on this side. Remove the little clip and again clip them onto the lower handle. And there we are. That's the cables tidy and out of the way of the grass bag. So moving on, we're going to fit the bottle holder. It has two holes, one either side, and we're going to take the two screws out of the packet. We're going to need a crosshead or Phillips screwdriver for this. We can place the screws through the holes, and you'll see there are two holes in the upper plastic mouldings here. So we just line up the screws with the holes. That's one. I'll just start them by hand. And that's the second one. And then supporting the plastics from underneath, we'll just drive them home with the screwdriver. That's the one side. And that's the other side. So that's the bottle holder fitted. You'll notice at the top of the handles there's an instruction card here which explains how to fit these two cables to the handles. So I'll just remove the instruction card by cutting through the cable tie, but I suggest you keep this for future reference. So what you will see, there are two cables, an upper and a lower. The upper one goes onto this handle. So you would just undo the handle from the little hole there. You can see you can just spring it inwards to remove it from the hole. Connect up the cable and then back into the hole. Exactly the same procedure with the rear handle. Just pop it out of the hole, bring it forward, connect the little cable through the hole in the handle here and then back in with the end of the handle into the hole. Okay, so that's the cables fitted. Quite simple really. So all that's left in the bag now are these two black plastic pieces and a spare key. We shall look at the key a little later. And these two pieces click into two holes here under the rear flap. So that's one on this side and one on the other side. So let's talk about charging the battery. Your machine does come with this charger here which simply plugs into a 13 amp outlet. The connection point for the battery charger is here on the side of the battery. You simply plug the little jack plug in and then you can connect the power supply into a 13 amp outlet. It may take up to 5 hours to charge the battery before your first use. Once charging is complete, remove the power supply from the socket and simply pull the little jack plug out from the side of the battery. So we're pretty much all assembled now. The final things we need to do are to put oil in the engine as it's shipped to you with no engine oil, and it's vitally important that you do put oil in the engine before you even think about starting your mower. And secondly, we need to put fresh unleaded fuel in the fuel tank. The oil is filled through this filler tube here. You simply turn it anti-clockwise a quarter turn and you'll find that the filler plug and dipstick can be withdrawn. So for the engine oil you can use a 1540 or an SAE30 petrol engine oil such as this one. Now these bottles here are 4-stroke SAE30 petrol engine oil, which is specially recommended for Hyundai power products, are available from our parts department. So this is the oil I'm going to use. So if we look at the dipstick, you'll see a letter L on the bottom. It's very difficult for me to show. A cross-hatched area and another line with a letter H. We need to fill the oil up on the dipstick to the letter H, the high mark on the dipstick. So I've got a little bit of paper towel at the ready, just in case I should spill some. And as I said, I'm going to very slowly pour engine oil into the engine. And I'm giving it time to run down the filler neck. Hence why I'm going slowly. Okay. So I started off with 400 ml. I've got about nearly 200 left in the jug. So I put about 200 ml in. I'm going to have a little dip. I'm going to allow time for that oil to run down the dipstick. We should be okay now. Place the dipstick in the oil. And we're just showing on the low area there. Nope. So a little more oil. Probably put about 300 ml in now in this particular mower. Probably went a little bit quick then. Just wipe the dipstick. That's gone down. Test it again. A little bit more, I would say. Okay. That's on the high. Yeah. You'll notice I'm not screwing the dipstick down, I'm just placing it on top to test it. And we've just got up to the H mark on the dipstick. Okay, so that's correct. So this particular mower took very nearly 400 ml. Your mower may take a little more, a little less. It depends how much residual oil is left in the engine from when it was tested during manufacture. So having filled it to the correct level with engine oil, we'll replace the dipstick, quarter turn clockwise, make sure it's secure, and that's the oil filled. So the fuel filler cap is located here on the rear left hand side of the engine. You can turn it anti-clockwise and simply remove the cap. Now we need to use fresh unleaded petrol in here, no additives, just fresh unleaded petrol. Okay, so I've got about half a litre here, should be more than enough for the demonstration of this. Now always refuel your lawnmower in the open air, in a well ventilated space. Obviously not close to sources of ignition. Obviously not with the engine running. And if your engine has recently been running, give it time to cool down before refueling, because should you spill some on the exhaust, there's a likelihood of fire. So back on with the lid in a clockwise direction, and that's the fuel filled. So let's go through some of the controls on your lawnmower. This front handle here is what we call the OPC lever. Think of it as an on and off switch. The lawnmower will not start unless it's pulled back, and if you release this handle at any time, the engine will stop. It's the operator present control lever and on-off switch for the engine. So again, if you don't pull this handle, the electric start is inoperative. If you pull this handle back, the electric start will work. And when the engine is running, at any time to stop the engine, simply release this front handle. The rear handle engages the self-propelled drive. So if you pull the handle forward, the machine will drive. If you release the rear handle, the drive will stop. Let's move on to these two levers. So this right hand lever is basically an accelerator for the engine. So fully back in the tortoise position would be the tick over, and fully forward would be the high speed of the engine. So high speed is forward, slow speed back. Moving on to the other lever, this is a choke lever. So on a cold start, to start your lawnmower, you would want to push this lever fully forward to turn the choke on. Once the machine has started, we can then pull it fully back to turn the choke off. So the red button here is the electric start. It's a push button electric start. You do get a spare push button, and the push button can be simply removed by pulling it out to prevent unauthorized use of your mower. So to insert the key, line it up, pop it in the hole, and it's now ready, and we'll start the engine only when the OPC lever is pulled. First of all, a little bit of assembly of the grass bag is needed. You'll see these little plastic strips. They just peel out and over the top of this metal bar, as you can see. So yeah, we'll just thread the plastic strips over the little metal bar. There we are, and that's all the assembly that's needed. So to fit the grass bag, we can lift the rear flap, and you'll see the two little slots on either side of the plastic pieces we fitted earlier. There is a corresponding hook on the grass bag, so we simply lift the grass bag into place it over the hooks, release the flap, and that's the grass bag fitted. So one final thing we can do here, this is where this little pigtail comes into play. So I can pull the pull starter a good ways out of the engine and just tuck the cable of the pull start into the little handle, and it puts the pull starter into a convenient position. One other feature of this lawnmower is the 5-position single point height adjuster. So to adjust the various cutting heights of the machine, you simply pull this lever outwards and move it forwards or backwards depending on the height you want to cut. So yes, it has 5 positions, 3, 4, 5. Fully forward is the lowest position of the deck in relation to the ground, and fully backwards is the highest. For my starting demonstration on a deck, I'm going to leave it on the high position. So for a cold start of your lawnmower, first we're going to need to turn the choke on. So that's the left hand lever, fully forward. We're going to turn the speed of the engine to maximum, so that's the right hand lever, fully forward. We'll pull back on the OPC. If we don't do this, I can push the start button, nothing happens. I'll pull back on the lever and start the engine. As you saw then, once the engine had started, I turned the choke off. I also demonstrated the speed of the engine by pulling the throttle back and forward again. I also demonstrated the drive by pushing the drive handle forward. And as you saw, when I released the OPC handle, the engine stopped. So for a warm start, we wouldn't need the choke. Again, we put the accelerator on full forward, pull back on the OPC and start the lawnmower. And as you saw, it started without choke, and the second I let go of the OPC, the engine will stop. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit HyundaiPowerProducts.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and happy gardening.